All right, I guess I'm trying this one more time. Only am I ever having difficulties today. Welcome everybody to another episode of Spec Fire, G.I. Joe Classified Crow Fights. I am your host, Crusty Old Crow, Ryan, and this is the fifth installment of this new thing that I'm doing. I am still doing the tactical perspective for those of you that are thinking, oh, geez, I don't like this new thing he's doing, and I might not follow along because he hasn't reviewed a figure in a while. Not at all, guys. Stick around. We got Friday through Sundays when I do tactical perspectives, because that's when I go out and I buy a new figure on the market. There is going to be a new one I'm really excited for this Friday, because I got the updated order in from eBay, or not eBay, pardon me, GameStop just the other day. And so on Friday, I'm picking up General Hawk in addition to one of my Dreadnoks, which I believe is Buzzer. So you'll see two tactical perspective toy reviews on those on Friday. And then in between, I'm finding things to just do with my time. I am a retired veteran and I'm having some fun. Some of you have picked up on Specfire, and it's for you. You're having a good enough time with it and you're engaging back and forth with me, and I really enjoy that. So thanks very much to the viewers out there that are enjoying themselves enough to reach out and tell me what they like or what they want to see. That's great. It really helps. So, in one of the restrictions, and you'd think doing a Joe against Cobra fight would be easy to do. And when you have enough of them, like I do, I have quite a good Joe collection. I wouldn't say I have all the figures, but I have a pretty good Joe and Cobra collection on the go, and with that Dreadnoks. You would figure it'd be easy to do matchups, but man, once you start looking at it, you're like, who wants to see Snake Eyes versus Storm Shadow again? And no. And you start going, well, wait, some of these matchups are so uneven, they wouldn't even be fun. So it's interesting, and it's hard to sometimes think of really good ones that I'd want to share with people, but I am sitting back on them. I've got a few, and I'll do these one today because I was eager to see how number 5 would break out if I did Breaker and the Ram versus the Baroness and that Cobra COIL. I've been itching to wonder how that would play out. So if I'm doing a thing about Breaker and the Baroness, why am I dressed like Lowlight? Just for shits and giggles, I decided I would just bring another little smirk of I'm not taking myself too seriously on this back to my channel. The other night I was watching some videos on G.I. Joe Classified and guys that talk about Classified. And I watch a lot of really amazing guys who do a lot of really amazing work on their videos, like editing, graphics, all that other stuff. They put so much time and effort into these, and me, I just come in and I barf out what I gotta barf out onto the camera, and I hit send. You know, I don't edit it. I just do one take. And the reason I'm doing that, guys, it's like, yeah, okay, I'll go eventually learn to do editing and things like that and make better videos, but right now this is who you're getting. And you can take him or leave him, and he's good either way, right? But anyways, what I'm dressed like Lowlight for is because Lowlight is a guy I respect as a figure because he came with everything he needed to do his job. All right? Coop, my boy Coop. While he might have a traumatic childhood where he got lost in the woods at one point, came out with a gun, and everybody thought he was okay. He's clearly not. Coop is always prepared. Coop has everything on his figure represented that he needs to as far as his kit go. He's got a backpack for any kit you think he doesn't have in there. The potential is it's in his backpack. Even a broken down pistol could be in a backpack, but with him, his pistol actually fits onto his backpack, which is why he doesn't have a side holster. He also comes with a knife, and he comes with that piece of gear, and somebody shared it with me on the review of him, of what it was called, and I can't remember, but it's basically like a barometer, a wind reader, and all that other good pertinent data to a sniper. He's got all of that, a knife, and he's got that fabulous rifle case with that amazing tear-down rifle, sniper rifle, where his head can actually get in the sights, and it solves the spirit issue that they had earlier in the line. This figure is not only popular, it's really well put together, but it is also achieves the point I'm trying to make about the Breaker figure, which is he's got all his kit. Breaker does not. Breaker is probably the most popular version of the, or not popular version, but popular vote on, if I were to ask anyone who came with the worst kit loadout, Breaker would be up there. Especially if I said that the Ram isn't a piece of kit, it's a vehicle, and to this end, Breaker's actually the accessory to the Ram and not the other way around as I see it. So Breaker coming with only the Ram and no sidearm and no rifle is a really interesting consideration when I'm putting him up in this match. And it's something that I'll probably refer to a few times throughout the match. But I know Coop's thought on this. And Coop's thought on this is one man, one kit. If you didn't bring it, it's on you. You shouldn't even be there. And that's exactly how it is. You can't tell me that he wasn't issued one by the government. He was. He just didn't bring it. And Hasbro prevented him from bringing it. And it doesn't make any sense. And it's a confusion point. And you can try and justify it all you want. And excuse it. And you can say that Gatling gun is his gun. Well, okay. How long do you think it takes him to break down that sidecar? You know, how much ammo do you think fits in that sidecar? So my criticisms from Breaker aside, he's a guy I always want to root for. But sometimes we're going to see if what Breaker can do is going to balance what the Baroness can do today. So how do these shows, the Spec Fire, work? As I've explained in others, I've broken it down into an introduction phase where I show you the two characters that we're doing. And I show you their old file cards from back in the day in the 80s. And then I'm going to show you the terrain. I'm going to read you in on the situation that I'm throwing these guys into. And then, boom, we're into 5 rounds. And the first round's going to be what happens at 1 kilometer out to 500 meters. It's the engagement phase. It's who gets the initiative, who's got the jump on who. Yes, my scenarios might say one person would normally get the jump, and that's fine. But it's also who can seize that initiative away, right? So you have that in the first round. Second round is react to enemy fire. So it's after everybody's identified or closing distance. It's whatever happens between the 500 meters and the 300 meters. All of this is being reflected on what the character is, what their jobs are, what their likely motives and plans would be, and also what their kit provides them with, right? So in round 3, 300 to 100 meters, it's win the firefight. So at that point, you're closing into each other. You're getting into that close combat range and maximum effectiveness of most conventional firearms. Right around that 200 meter, it gets bloody and it gets tracer fire and it gets Michael Bay. Round 4 is that 100 meter to close combat mark. I call that the take the trench. That's when you would charge, fix bayonets. You would engage in close combats. You would get off whatever last minute firepower advantage you have and then go in, right? And then we'd have our final 5th closing round, our Hollywood ending. What last minute thing can a Joe or a Cobra pull out from their kit list or from their character or nature that might change their outcome? And what is that outcome? Is it going to be a fatality? Is it going to be a wounding? Is it a capture? Is it a getaway? We'll talk about it here. So we'll have a victor and we'll talk, and that'll be the end of it. And then we'll move on to the next video another time. So where am I taking everybody today? All right, guys. So today, let's look at our racers, ladies and gentlemen. On the one hand, you have the Baroness and her Cobra COIL. Let's talk about that COIL before I get into the Baroness's file card. COIL is clearly a fictional bike, and it's very reminiscent of anybody who ever saw that. The first real icebreaker anime movie that got everybody into manga, Akira. This bike will remind you of Kira in most every way. As you can see, completely fictitious frame. It's got a wide body. If you compare that to any other bike, I'm going to grab my extra RAM here and just put it beside it and do a side-by-side comparison of them. And you can see that it's considerably longer than the Ram itself. It's got that wider wheelbase and all that going on for it. It's also got a much larger engine going on for it there. Much more torque and horsepower coming out of this thing to keep that thing going. And guys, just so you know, Krusty Old Crow does not ride a motorcycle. He's always thought about it, but he's never gotten off the fence on it. So you won't hear me talking about how many cc's these things have, or who's got the edge on what, as far as the actual bike statistical stuff. Suffice it to say that this is definitely, if I were to call it anything, more of a street, highway, tarmac and pavement kind of bike. And I'm doing that based off what I'm seeing with the tread tires and the wide base and that big body. That's a heavy body, boys and girls. Very heavy body. So for our future representation in our reenactment, this will represent the Cobra COIL. Okay, so let's go over to the Baroness's file card there, as we see that she is all set to go and her helmet is ready if we're going to put that on. And it says that Cobra Intelligence Officer, codenamed Baroness, his primary specialty is intelligence, and she's also a secondary specialty in fixed-wing pilot. We don't know much about her, but the movie says we know a lot more. But I'm just going with this card and says that she's a spoiled offspring of wealthy European aristocrats. She graduated from the student radicalism into international terrorism, and finally into the ranks of Cobra. She got hurt one time in a Cobra night attack and had plastic surgery, and rumor is that she's the only one that knows the identity of Destro. Okay, her weakness, principally, is her indecision to decide whether she's loyal to Cobra Commander or Destro or both or neither. We do know that the Crimson Guard kind of are independent of Cobra, and she is very functionally leading that with the Tomax and Zaymont and, of course, Destro. Her box. This is the Cobra COIL box. It was number 13 in the series. I'm not doing a review on it, but you can see that she is riding with her helmet here. So guess what, guys? I'm not going to do the helmet in this chase. It is one advantage she does not need in this race against the underwhelmed and under-equipped Breaker. She doesn't need that decisive edge with the helmet, and you figure she's got some high-speed glasses anyways that are probably ballistic enough that they'll be good for riding. And she's got enough weapons going for her. On my loadout, you can see I've included her strange Cobra advanced laser. It came in the box. It is clearly a weapon, and what it actually is a drone, I have no idea. But she also has her pistol, and she has a knife. On my figure, I have 2 pistols, 2 knives, but we're restricting her to 1 of each, okay? And that helmet, on a standard COIL rider, that is a system interface with the bike that allows the rider a lot of benefits in riding. And when I take that out of the equation, this slowly starts to level a playing field just a bit. It's not enough. There's still a very large decisive advantage to this Cobra COIL, even with a helmetless Baroness. So let's move over to Breaker and the Ram and talk about what we're getting there. Again, we're getting a very traditional and iconic motorcycle and the character riding it. Everybody loves the Ram. You can't say growing up this wasn't one of the best Joe toys out there when the initial release was underway. And they did an excellent job over at Hasbro reintegrating this into the classified line with a removable Gatling gun, which is the only gun Breaker's going to be coming with today. Yes, I did a conversion where I gave him a back holster for a small sidearm. And yes, I do issue him with a M16 and M203 because on his file card he's qualified it, and he is still infantry, but he's a comms guy as well, so he would have a gun. So let's go over to his file card, but just quickly look at the engine size and size of the Ram. When I did that comparative to the COIL, we know we're dealing with a smaller, lighter bike. This bike is meant to be more off-road than street, but it is functional on street, clearly, but it is going to do better going off on trails and dirt bike-like paths. However, when it's got a sidecar, whether that sidecar has an internal suspension in that box or not, it's going to get limited on the things it can and cannot do cross country, just as it's going to have some limitations in weaving in and out of traffic at times. This is going to come down to the skill and endurance ability of the rider and how well he can muscle that bike through some problems. All right, but you can see he's not bringing a sidearm to the table. He just has his comms helmet, and that's going to be really his only advantage, is his breaker doing what breaker does. Alvin being Alvin. Speaking of him, there's his file card there, one of the OG6, right? So communications officer, breaker, Alvin Kibley. Primary military specialty, infantry, which means you would have a freaking gun. But Hasbro did not include one in this box, so we have to go without. Sorry, Coop. Sorry, Alvin. Barbecue. Pay attention. Okay, so Breaker is familiar with all NATO and Warsaw Pact communication gear as well as most world export devices, okay? His specialized education is signal school, and we later find out in the series that he upgrades this to computers when he gets wounded and has to heal up. He upgrades his education. Project Gamma, is the covert electronics that I guess that he's been exposed to, and he is an expert with the M16 and a MAC-10 as well, the gun that's going to be coming with Mutt and Junkyard, hopefully. He's also the M19 grenade, I think, is their grenade launcher. I'm not sure. Somebody in the States, the M19, is that your grenade launcher or is that your tube launcher? Anyways, he's effective and self-assured and has an uncanny ability to turn adverse situations to his favor. All right, that's another consideration I got to give to him. Unlike the Baroness and what we read on his COIL or her file card, what we read about Alvin is that he's adaptable, and he is able to figure out tech, and he is able to communicate, and he's infantry. All right, which means, and I'm putting a lot on this infantry thing only in the point that I'm trying to drive home is if you are infantry, that means you train and work side by side with infantry all the time, and therefore, you know, you're going to be in shape with them. You're going to be up on your weapons like them, and you're going to have a place among them assigned to you on every deployment or field exercise, and you will get to know that place and your role, right? And you know what the best part is? We get all these manuals in the Army, and not one of them have to tell us to bring a friggin' gun. Okay, so enough about that, guys. Let's set up the scenario for today's fight. Today's fight, I'm keeping it simple. I'm keeping it local for me. All right. Today's fight's going to occur on the Nightmare Bend of the 401, just outside of Toronto and Oshawa area, where we are going to pretend, just for the sakes of shits and giggles here, that they, just outside of Oshawa, which is just east of Toronto, there is a major construction site that has gone up. This is actually a facility that is covertly or secretly a Crimson Guard facility. And what has happened is represented by the, I'm going to represent them by the dirt bike here. Breaker has gone on a mission to identify the fact that they have in fact put this shipped in this cargo device, cargo container, and in it was this very important piece of tech that had to be eliminated. It was a prototype tech that would have given Crimson Guard an unfair advantage up in the north here in Canada. And Breaker, he figured out where it was going through computers and listening in comms, and he got his ram in position. And you know, it's a civilian construction site, so he was very careful, and he just rode by with one controlled quick burst out of the gun, and he wiped out that precious container. And therefore, you know, the container, paf, gone, no more container. Well, all right, he succeeded in his mission. Now he's going to head over to the highway and start making his way home. So somewhere between Oshawa and Belleville, he's going to link up with his escort, and he's going to put the bike on the back of a low bed, and he's going to call her a day, go get some McDonald's, and chew the fat with the boys, having brushed his hands and said, "Good job, me. I did that without a gun." All right, problem is that he hadn't figured out that site was actually overseen by the Baroness, and she has broken out of the offices, seeing the destruction is reaped, and she uncrates her Cobra coil quickly, hops on it, doesn't bother putting on a helmet, and she is now in pursuit, heading down this busy 401 on a Friday at 3 p.m. on a long weekend. it's going to get busy on the 401. I'm going to tell you that. So what we are dealing with is these kind of traffic situations where it's starting to pick up. It's people are starting to get out of work early to try to make their way on the long weekend to their cottage country or wherever they're going. And Commerce traffic is still out there, so you're starting to get congestion happening there. Flint's not there, but it's starting to look like this. All right, and so I've got that slightly represented here with our little traffic jammy jam. Right, so we're going to get into round one. Let me grab our cue card. In round one, the spot and engage 1K out. This is where Baroness is going to have a massive decisive advantage, okay? It's not going to be about necessarily spotting him. She'll do that quickly enough. The round one won't take very long, as that Cobra Coil is going to close the distance on this lesser horsepowered ram coming down these highways, even weaving in and out of traffic. It's only a matter of minutes before she's got him in visual range. All right, and as far as engagement goes, the Cobra Coil has a set of weapons that she could discharge and likely hit. So any discharge there, she also realizes there's limited control over the civilian traffic there and could cause a cataclysmic effect, which could break her pursuit through causing a massive accident. She still needs to close into that closer distance at that point. But Breaker is well aware she's back there. You know, he's getting things on his headset that's alerting him to his own situation. He's in constant comms chatter right now, coming up with an idea because he realizes, oops, I hadn't accounted for being pursued. Not like that. So let's move our little dinky cars, or whatever you guys call them, down over here. So we have the Baroness on that one. Where did I put that dirt bike? You know what? Screw the dirt bike. At this point, we're going to treat the ram as though it's this bike, just to represent the fact that what you would get is basically the effect out of any good highway chase movie like The Matrix or any of that other stuff. You would get the round 5 going down with closing the distance, no shots fired because she's not going to disrupt her own plans by causing people to blow up or any of that stuff. So we're going to burst right into round 2. Round 2 being the 500 to 300 meter round. And this is where we start seeing more drama here. So round 2, just as he's getting up to the point, he spots his escort team. And he's like, hey, escort team, I got to get out of here. Baroness is there. And the escort team is the perfect target and opportunity for someone like the Baroness to take them out quickly. So round 2 would just be about the Baroness closing the distance more. It would be about Breaker continuing to try and make sure she doesn't get line of sight on him because he's got nothing to defend himself with. That Gatling cannon cannot be turned rearward. And she would cause the escort team to go flipping off the road or something using the cannons on her coil. Up ahead, she would see the low bed team, and she would make sure that wherever she's riding, it's going to prevent him from getting on the low bed with that vehicle. So eventually, you know, she'll spot the manipulation, and maybe she uses that Cobra Snake as she closes out of round 2 and into round 3 right away, because now she's within that, you know, that what did we say round 3 was? That 300 to 100 meter mark. She's winning the fight at this time. She's had the edge the whole time. The most Breaker can do is talk to whoever he's been talking to on the headset, as well as the low bed team and what was the security team. That's the most he can do at this point. He can't turn around and take a couple pot shots at her. And so the COIL will say, well, eliminate the low bed from the equation and continue to give pursuit. Okay. What else is going on in round 3? It's not like Breaker's not doing anything at 300 to 100, right? So the time he spent securing himself with using speed and line of sight brakes between him and the coil so that she doesn't get the right shot off on him before he's moving out of its way. He's talking, and there's some map being relayed to him on what his options are. And what he's looking for is an area to switch the advantage, where his bike will have the advantage. Right now, on the highway and on the tarmac, as far as maneuverability and firepower, the COIL would take all of that, right? But it's also got a lot of weight going with it. Okay, and this thing is going to be a lot better once it gets off the hard pack than this thing necessarily will be as far as stopping and things like that. So as you're leaving Oshawa, you start getting trees on the sides of the highway as you're leaving the public norms, and you get those big grassy medians, and those are the considerations that he's looking at now. So just as we get to the 300, and we're about to get into round 4 here, Breaker manages to spot a spot to get off the road. He takes the turnpike, or the just like a regular country off past the 401, and he breaks off the road just slightly into an area like this. All right, so what does that leave the COIL left to do in round 4? Round 4 would basically be her trying to take any last strafing rounds as he gets off the round, and then she would have to brace to come off the road. There would be both hands at this point having to engage that gear shifter, so she would have to holster the pistol. She had it drawn. The snake drone, whatever, would have to find a way to be non-interference at that point. And she would have to put all of her body weight and focus into coming off the highway, because it was his plan, not hers. So she's going to have to slow that bike down and adapt. Okay, so as she gets into close quarters, she doesn't have that advantage at the 100, because he went off the road and she's got to follow. So that takes us into the almost the close quarters combat part of this, because it's off the road within 100 meters of each other. The time she's spending braking and trying to control the bike's movement forward and turn it off the hard pack and on terrain that these tires are not built for and the weight of the bike wasn't designed for, he's already managed to turn the bike. He's managed to hit that brake, do a dirt bike-like stop, skid that whole thing. It doesn't matter. He's got a whole open side to do a wide degree turn of arc and keep that thing in the air, just like you see him on the box. So he's flying with that thing up. He's making that turn. He gets that Gatling gun engaged and levels a burst at that bike. So that would engage and destroy the much larger forward-moving bike with the lead, because coming off the road onto the dirt, this thing would lose its maneuverability until it got to a slower rate of speed and it could control itself. This thing wouldn't have that kind of a problem. Not to the degree this one did. Anyways, so Breaker manages to pull out quickly take the bike out of the equation maneuver, but that doesn't mean that he necessarily captured or did anything with the Baroness. In fact, quite the opposite. The Baroness would have probably survived the bike, we'll say. We'll say for the sake of drama that body armor prevented her from taking any significant injury from the spill of the bike. And once she gets to her feet, she's back to having 2 weapons, and he is back to trying to orientate a cannon. And anything she does to run left or right takes this cannon out of the equation. Can he get the cannon out of the sidecar and bring it to bear before she closes the distance with a pistol, high-speed fun toy called looks like a snake and a knife? It's not likely. Has her privilege given her any kind of close combat abilities? Well, that's exactly what they're trying to allude in some of this, is that, you know, like, she is dangerous in espionage. Once she gets up close, she's got little tricks and gizmos and trinkets and some training to actually kill you in close combat. What he's got is what the basic infantry will bring to the table: a determination to win a fight, some unarmed combat training, and very little to do it with. Do we even see a knife on Breaker? We do not. Breaker is going to lose in close combat. So in the 5th round, essentially what happens is before he can get the bike revved up and make the decision to get out of there, he has been on the comms. He knows help is coming. She closes with, and she wounds him with a couple of bursts out of that snake and stuns him, knocks him off the bike, and he's losing consciousness. So poor Breaker, you know, he's lost the day. Maybe that helmet pops off. And just as she closes in laughing, haha, you thought you could get away with that, blah, 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 he's got a little snicker on his face, and suddenly she realizes that what she thought were truck tires coming off the 401, maybe just coming out the lane going blah, 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 were actually helicopter blades. And she realizes that too late as the Dragonfly and the Tomahawk come to pick up their comrade and capture their new prize, the Baroness. Ta-da! Look at that. I pulled a silver lining out of a real turd factory over here. Guys, that's going to be the fight for today. I had fun. Whether or not that's the most realistic thing you've ever seen, or the most playful endeavor, or the most annoying thing you've seen, round 5 concluded with Breaker basically losing the fight. Yeah, I could say in my scenario he wins the day because that headset and passing that comms, you know, he's making a play. He's sacrificing the body to win the objective. He's laying on the wire for the team, right? So let me take this goofy shit off. So when you get down to it, yeah, I think Baroness could kick Breaker's ass once she gets up close and personal. And she has tools that he doesn't have and he's not allowed to bring to the table, but she is. She gets a knife. She gets a pistol. She gets some adult sex toy looking gun. No, this is why I don't make my thing for kids, right? Because sometimes I'll step over some stupid line. Anyways, my point being is with the body armor and all the other stuff she's got going for her, and the character, the fact that she's a higher echelon character, she would have to have some means of protecting herself from anybody who got too close. I think that she would take the edge over Breaker, but I do think Breaker, once he realizes he was outclassed as soon as his getaway started, he would have been on there going, yeah, bring in some helicopters to come give us some support, right? What else didn't happen on here that I kind of had planned was, you know, there was no time for the local authorities to interrupt anything that was going on. The Highway 401 is not an unmonitored route. In fact, it's very actively patrolled. So if any of you guys down south are coming up to Canada and you're going on the 401, just remember the difference between miles per hour and kilometers per hour. So you don't meet one of many great and friendly and very competent and very great bunch of guys at the RCMP or the provincial police that would have been on the 401 at that time of day. On a Friday for a long weekend at 3 o'clock, that place would have been coated in police. And they would have gotten involved because they don't take any kind of BS on the 401. Anyways, enough about that, guys. Hey, thanks very much for sticking around with this. I will be doing another tactical perspective, like I said, on Friday or Saturday about General Hawk and Buzzard. I'm going to keep doing these. If you guys have any suggestions for ones you want to see, fire them off. If I'm capable, I'm gonna. The other day, I think it was Roman was saying, I'd love to see Range Viper versus Lowlight. So would I. I just got to find a Range Viper out here, and then I'll do that one. But until then, you had your Lowlight cameo today. We'll see you next time on Spec Fire G.I. Joe Classified Fights. I hope you guys know something today, because that's half the battle. See you again. Bye.